What's up, YouTube? It's the one and only Legend of Winning, aka Low, and I'm back with my top 10 centers in the NBA list. Now finally, people, we are at the end of my top 10 series, and if you feel like you miss any of the positions, make sure you wait to the end of the video, or you can click in the top right hand corner with the annotations and I will have a playlist for all 5 positions just so you can kind of catch up on everything that you need to catch up on. Furthermore, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell as well, because the NBA season is right around the corner and I will not stop making videos anytime soon. I'm just going to keep cranking out as many videos as I can before and a little after the NBA season starts. Now with that out of the way, let's get right into the list. Coming in at number 10, we have Steven Adams. Steven Adams, starting center for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I honestly believe one of the most underrated players on this list, as Steven Adams is one of the more selfish players on this list, as he consistently sacrifices his numbers, especially when it comes to his rebounding numbers, to make sure the team that he's on operates at its maximum potential. As Steven Adams is one of the better rebounders in the NBA, however, his numbers don't reflect that, largely due to the fact that the organization has decided to allow Russell Westbrook to push the pace and grab rebounds. However, Steven Adams' impact is still felt on this team and in the NBA, as he's one of the very few bigs that I see rather consistently switch out on guards and is willing to defend the perimeter. Along with the fact that Steven Adams is one of the hard rim runners after setting a pick or even coming down a fast break, and he finishes around the lane rather frequently. I have to give Steven Adams credit. He has added a floater to his game and continued to progress in his post moves, but when it comes to his offensive game, he's definitely not of the elite level. Steven Adams is definitely one of the more defensive-minded players, and because of that, that's the reason why I have him so low on this list. But nevertheless, Steven Adams in his spot in the top 10 centers in the NBA is still justified. Moving on to number 9, we have Clint Capela. Clint Capela, yet again, one of the more underrated players in the NBA, as defensively he has taken massive steps in the right direction within the last 2 years. And I would argue in many aspects he is the third most important player on the Houston Rockets team that has slowly started to develop into a more defensive-minded organization. As Clint Capela last year had a career season in multiple aspects, especially when it comes to his impact on the defensive end. And even though, yes, Clint Capela may not receive all of the defensive accolades that he rightfully deserves, trust me when I say Clint Capela is definitely one of the more elite level defenders in the NBA, as he too is one of the more willing big men who has the ability to switch out and defend perimeter players. Not only that, Clint Capela is a beast on the boards, and he has the ability to finish strong around traffic when throwing the lob to him. The only knock that I have against Clint Capela is offensively he's just not that well-rounded whatsoever, and you can definitely make an argument that offensively he's probably the worst player on this list. But nevertheless, Clint Capela and his impact on the Houston Rockets team that desperately needs some type of defensive identity from time to time definitely justifies his spot on this list. Coming in at number 8, we have Andre Drummond. Now, I know a lot of people will be upset at me because Andre Drummond last year had a historic season as he averaged 16 rebounds a game. And many people would not only argue that Andre Drummond is the greatest rebounder in the league, but he's the greatest rebounder the league has seen since Dwight Howard and has the potential to put his name amongst all-time great rebounders in NBA history. However, a lot of people, including myself, are extremely skeptical on how he gets those rebounds. Now, I'm not saying that he pads his stats per se, but I am saying this. Due to his unwillingness to defend perimeter players off of pick and roll switches, or even just committing to defend the perimeter from time to time, does allow him to grab a little bit more rebounds than a few other players on this list. And because of his lack of commitment on the defensive end, that's the reason why I have him a little bit lower on this list than many people would expect. But I will give credit where credit is due. Last year, Andre Drummond expanded his offensive game pretty significantly, and he worked on his free throw percentage as well. Also, Andre Drummond improved on his ball handling abilities and became a better passer, but still lacked a lot of offensive game that a lot of other players I have ahead of him on this list. Nevertheless, Andre Drummond is still a solid contributor for a Detroit Pistons team that I believe will make the playoffs this upcoming season, which is why I have him on this list. Now, coming up next, we have LaMarcus Aldridge. Now, many people were upset at me because LaMarcus Aldridge more than likely will start at the power forward position. However, for this upcoming season, I do believe he's going to spend way more time at the center position than I think a lot of people are anticipating, largely due to the fact that Pau Gasol just isn't going to play that many minutes. And because of that, along with the fact that LaMarcus Aldridge is an extremely well-rounded offensive player, as he has a nice mid-range jumper, along with the fact that in the post, he's almost unstoppable when he gets going, and he can space the floor out to the 3-point line every now and then, is the reason why I have him on this list. Also on the defensive end, he's definitely not at the elite level. However, playing with Popovich over the past couple of years has definitely grown his defensive game, especially when it comes to his IQ, because defensively he's making more sounder decisions and he is a better passer as well. Now coming up next, we have Al Horford. Al Horford, starting big man for the Boston Celtics, and I honestly believe that Al Horford still has one more really great season for everybody to witness, largely due to the fact that the Boston Celtics will have an abundance of floor spacing now on the team, and Al Horford thrives with that, as Al Horford is definitely one of the better passers at his position, and when it comes to his level of efficiency, it's almost unmatched to any other player on this list as well. Also, when it comes to Al Horford, his basketball IQ is nearly through the roof, as it seems as if he's always making the right play, time in and time out. Furthermore, when it comes to Al Horford defensively, even though yes, he's not a dominant defensive presence inside, he definitely has the ability to move his feet and laterally quick enough to switch out on a lot of perimeter players when it comes to pick and roll defense, which is something that's extremely valuable in today's NBA. Now starting off my top 5 centers, and trust me when I say this is the hardest top 5 I had to do of all of my positions, we have Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, starting star center for the Utah Jazz, a player whose defensive impact is so monumental that it scales at a historic level. Because last year, Rudy Gobert, when he was not playing for the Utah Jazz, defensively, they just were not the same. Don't get me wrong, defensively, they still were an above average team from many metrics. However, his impact on the team was just on a whole nother level, and because of that, along with the fact that he is still a phenomenal rebounder, he still is a really good passer. I think a lot of people don't understand how good of a passer he is, and he can still give you somewhere between 12 to 15 points on a night-to-night basis. But obviously, Rudy Gobert and the impact that he will have on his Utah Jazz team this upcoming season should not go unnoticed, which is why I have him as a top 5 center in the NBA. Now coming in at number 4, we have Nikola Jokic, and the only reason why I have Jokic over Gobert, largely due to his significant impact that he will have on the Denver Nuggets team on the offensive end. Jokic is a phenomenal 3-point shooter, he's a great playmaker, he's a great shot creator as well, and when it comes to grabbing rebounds, he does that at an elite level too. Furthermore, when it comes to Jokic's upcoming season, I think a lot of people are anticipating him to take the next step, which is something that I am anticipating as well. And so because of that, if he's able to take the next step offensively and be a consistent 23-point scorer while giving you somewhere around 11 to 12 rebounds, I think his overall dominance on the offensive end will allow many people to overlook how poor of a defender he is, because on the defensive end, he's terrible. He's arguably the worst defender on this list, and that's definitely saying something at the center position. Now coming in at number 3, we have KarlAnthony Towns, and I'm not going to say a lot of you guys, this right here was extremely interesting for me as well, because I don't really think there's that big of a gap between KarlAnthony Towns, Jokic, and Gobert, as KarlAnthony Towns, extremely similar to Jokic, is very well rounded when it comes to his offensive game. He can shoot threes, create his own shot in the post, hit a mid-range jumper, and finish around the lane rather consistently. And the one thing that definitely separates KarlAnthony Towns from Jokic is his endurance, which has allowed him to show us that he can be a consistent 23 to 25 point performer, regardless if it was in the handful of games that Jimmy Butler missed this last season or even just the season prior to last, as KarlAnthony Towns was easily eclipsing 23 points or better every single night. But the one thing that's frustrating about KarlAnthony Towns is that when it comes to him being an athlete, he's definitely better than Jokic in that department, which you would hope and assume would eventually translate to the defensive end. However, it really hasn't yet. And outside of Jokic, you can argue that KarlAnthony Towns, unfortunately, is the worst defender on this list, and it really doesn't make any sense. Now coming in at number 2, we have Joel Embiid, and quite frankly, I don't necessarily know if I have to go into that much details to why Joel Embiid is significantly better than everybody else that I've named so far on this list, as Joel Embiid is extremely well-rounded, not only on the offensive end, but defensively as well, and his basketball IQ is rather high, especially for somebody who's only been in the NBA really for just one season if you take into account how many games he's played in totality. If there is one knock that I have against Joel Embiid, and this is a pretty big knock, is his inability to stay healthy, which is why I probably don't have him number 1, as I really don't know how many games or how many minutes he's going to be able to play for the upcoming season. But when you have a player such as Joel Embiid, who has the ability to not only be in a Defensive Player of the Year conversation, but also the MVP conversation, there's only a handful of players in the last like 5, 10, 15 years who've been able to do that. So shout out to Joel Embiid, because he's definitely dominant. Now coming in number 1, we have Anthony Davis, and very similar to Joel Embiid, I really don't think I have to do that much explanation to why Anthony Davis is significantly better than everybody else on this list outside of Joel Embiid. As Anthony Davis, very similar to Joel Embiid, is extremely well-rounded. Defensively, he can protect the rim at an elite level, move his feet as well to help out in the pick and roll. Furthermore, when it comes to the offensive end, he can create his own shot by posting up, facing up, attacking the basket, mid-range jumper. There really isn't that much that he can't do. And again, very similar to Joel Embiid, when you can have a player who can finish in the Defensive Player of the Year race and the MVP race, which I honestly believe he has a very good chance of winning MVP this upcoming season. There's only a handful of players who can say they've been able to do that over the past 5, 10, 15 years. Now, the only reason why I have Anthony Davis over Joel Embiid, largely due to the fact that I feel a little bit more comfortable that I'm going to see more games played from Anthony Davis than Joel Embiid. But nevertheless, Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid are the 2 best centers in the NBA this upcoming season. And quite frankly, I don't even think that it's close. I don't even think that there's anybody who's remotely close to those 2 players, largely due to their impact on both sides of the floor. But with that being said, people, please let me know what you think about this video in the comment section below. Please let me know if you feel like I left anybody out. And like I stated before, make sure you click the annotation, or I should have a playlist popping up right about now, so you can make sure if you missed out on any other video in my top 10s list, make sure you can click on that. And as always, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.